George, I wanted to, talk a little bit about your new album. Of course, 2120 South Michigan Avenue came out July 12th. Could you tell some of the viewers out there a little bit about that album and kind of your paying homage to Chess Records on that?
Well, it's an homage. If you speak French.
Oui, yes.
Okay, it's an homage. People say, "Hey, you're paying homage." I said, "No, it's homage. It's an homage."
Thank you for correcting.
Now, July 12th is correct. That is the release day. We're trying to hold it up for Bastille Day, which is celebrated in France as a national holiday, not unlike our 4th of July. So, you see, if we had released it on the 14th, Bastille Day, then the word homage, being French, but it unfortunately didn't work out that way. But so they rushed it.
Okay.
They rushed it out on the 12th to beat the rush of Bastille Day.
All right.
You can understand that.
I do.
Thorogood Destroyers being the current hot item that we are.
Oh, you guys are huge. Well, George, Chess Records, again, it was a big influence to you. All the artists on that label. Could you tell us a little bit about?
There wouldn't be a rock scene today, anybody, without Chess Records.
Yeah.
This is the studio where they cut Johnny Be Good, and they cut the song Roll Over Beethoven.
Yeah.
Now, if you could look into the past and look at the lyrics of those songs, you try to imagine Western civilization, not just a musical phenomenon, but a social phenomenon.
Definitely.
If you look into the song Johnny Be Good, you cannot imagine the world without it.
Definitely.
It's like a world without television or something.
Exactly.
It's that ingrained. The line in Roll Over Beethoven and tell Tchaikovsky the news. It means the world's changing.
Wow.
That's what it meant. The world. It could have been anything. It could have been any kind of technology.
Yeah.
Chuck Berry shows that there's this rock and roll thing happening, and it's still happening now. And without Chess, who knows? Maybe Chuck would have recorded somewhere else. We don't know.
Wow.
Maybe he would have gone to another record label, and they didn't want him. He met Muddy Waters on vacation in Chicago, and Muddy turned him on to Chess. He'd go over and he'd talk to a man named Leonard Chess, and they did a demo of blues.
Yeah.
And Leonard Chess liked Chuck and he liked his combo, and it was called the Johnny Johnson combo at the time. And they hired Chuck as a separate, to be in the band, the front man.
Yeah.
But Chuck was fooling around with original songs, and one of them was a song called Maybelline.
Okay, yeah.
And you know what happened after that? And Maybelline led to Johnny Be Good, which led to Roll Over Beethoven, which led to the Beatles,
Definitely.
which led to the Rolling Stones.
Definitely.
That's the way it works.
So
and which leads to me.
I was going to say, it's an amazing lineage, and George, you were definitely part of that
Lineage.
Is that French?
Like that word.
Okay, there we
I gotta
go.
have to remember that.
You are one of the successors of that lineage. And George, I mean, your style definitely. You obviously, especially on this new album, you're really trying to tip the hat, as it were, to those artists.
Well, actually, I've been doing that all along.
And yeah,
this is
all
just
your
a bigger version of that.
Okay.
We've been doing that with material. Turning people. Well, people say, well, you do covers, and I go, no, I don't do covers.
Yeah.
Linda Ronstadt does covers very well, I may add, and so does Joe Cocker. I said, what I've tried to do, not always, but my passion and my position in this rock world was to find obscure material and bring them into the awareness of the rock society, so to speak. That's been my job, and I've been doing that all along. And Chess heard the song Tail Dragger, which is on Dirty Dozen, got on the radio, and they said, we want to do more of this, we'll make a whole project around it. If you will, Jason.
Yeah, I will. Thank you, George. And George, of course, everybody knows your work. Wonderful, iconic songs, Bad to the Bone.
That I'm bad to the bone, bad to the bone, bad, bad to the bone. Yeah, who do you love? Oh, who do you love? Yeah, you know when I drink alone.
A number of wonderful tunes. And George, I was reading online that you and your band in the early 80s basically set a record on your 50-50 tour, going to 50 states in 50 days. I mean, if I didn't know you as well as I do, and we weren't good friends, I would find that almost unbelievable. But it's true. And could you tell us a little bit about what that experience was like? I mean, that's amazing.
I don't really look at it as being that amazing, tell you the truth. After all, there's not 250 states.
That's true. Yeah.
Did your mother or father ever go to work 50 days in a row? Of course they did.
Yeah.
That's what America was built on.
True.
I mean, would we know who Cal Ripken Jr. is or Lou Gehrig? If you can't go to work 50 days in a row and you're a rock star, you got problems.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah.
Right.
All right. Straight from George Thorogood.
Okay.
That's how to be a rock star 101 is be able to work hard and not complain when you have to go out and tour, right?
We're part of there's a thing that my parents used to call the one percenters, and they weren't talking about the Hells Angels of the old days. They said there's a thing in the world called the one percenters. And they said our generation, my mother's passed on, rest in peace. My father's still hanging in there at 97. But they told us kids, said, you want to be part of the one percenters. And I said, what's that? And they said the one percenters are the 1% of the people in the world who get paid to do what they love to do. There's only 1% of them, and that's what our whole generation is, to find one of you kids. Because we didn't have that choice. We didn't have that. Most people don't. And of those one percenters who get to do exactly what they want, if you had to pick them apart, the one percenters, what would they want to do? Be a rock star. That's the whole thing.
Well, I'm glad I'm
The
sitting.
president wants to be a rock star.
Yeah.
And how did President Clinton get in the White House? Rock the vote.
And the saxophone and all of that.
TV, and the kids voted for him because he's. Yeah, I said if he had been a better sax player than he was a politician, we wouldn't have Bill Clinton in the White House. We would have had him at the Mid-State Fair.
True. That is true. Well, George, I'm glad you are one of the select one percenters that just really have let your artistry shine. And I wanted to talk a little bit about the tour that you're going on here now, the national tour, of course, here at Paso Robles Mid-State Fair. This is the first of around 38 performances across the nation. Is that pretty
We're about in the middle of it. We went down and conquered New Zealand and Australia in January and February with Joe Cocker's band. Then we came back to the States, did some more things. We're out here to do some things here and in Canada. Then we're going to continue in September, October, November, and December. So kind of just get in the 1/3 of it's about done. We're just getting into the nitty-gritty of it because of the record release.
All right.
Yeah.
And George, I had read online too with the new album that came out July 12th. I noticed that you did actually release it on vinyl, and I don't know if that's the case with all of your albums, but nowadays not too many big artists release their stuff on vinyl. And was that purposeful on your end to, again?
Well, we did everything. We released it on CD. We released it on DVD. We released it on, STP. We released it on everything you could possibly think of. Any outlet that they want to do. But the vinyl thing for the younger people who didn't grow up with that, something so old it's new. We tried that with the Dirty Dozen, and we gave one of them to Bob Dylan.
Oh, wow.
And he was so, he was really moved.
Wow.
And I said, let's do that again. if you can move the man.
Oh, definitely. Then you know that you've got something going. Well, and I'd imagine too. I mean, again, I'm sure at your house you have a wide collection of a lot of those albums, Chess label and other label on vinyl. And a lot of people we've talked to, artists who we've interviewed, have talked about just the historic value of releasing things on vinyl, especially now with iTunes and digital downloads and things like that. Do you feel that it's important to sort of keep vinyl alive, so to speak?
When originally they went to CDs, like anything else, like when you make processed food or something like that, and the idea of is to make it faster and cheaper and sell it quicker. I think that was the idea with the CD thing, and ladies could put it in their purse, a guy could put it in his hip pocket. I think that was the idea. Neil Young brought up something very interesting. He said the reason music isn't being received is because the CD and the player of it, it's hard, it's metal, it's hard, and it hits a bone here. It doesn't hit your eardrum, which is soft. And the vinyl is soft.
Yeah, and it's analog versus digital, I guess, too. Yeah.
But you hear it in a different way. It's made to concur with the body system.
Gotcha.
You see what I'm saying? At least that's Neil Young's slant on it, which is sounds good to me.
Well, and I know in the mid-'90s when CDs were blowing up and vinyl hadn't really had a resurgence, I know Neil was one of those folks that really insisted that his stuff still be released on LP. I'm talking 94, 95, 96, when the digital world really opened up. So he's really kind of carried that torch.
Yes, he has, and carried it very well. And you make better records that way because I got a record by an artist, and I was interested in listening to it, and I was in the car, and I put the thing on, and I didn't give any of the songs a chance. Do you know why I didn't give them a chance, Jason? Because of technology. I had a button to push.
And you skipped the tracks that you weren't really feeling in the moment.
You put on the record, you're sitting on the other side of the room, the record's playing, and you say, I don't really like that song that much, and you put it to the next song. Then the next time you listen to it, you go, I don't have the energy to walk over, I'll just listen, it's only 4 minutes long. The next time you go, it's not a bad song. The next time you go, that's a good song. I'm glad see what I'm saying? And I didn't give these records a chance. Just because I didn't like what I heard right away, and what Neil Young was saying, well, you're not hearing it. You're getting a different signal from it than you would have gotten from the vinyl, and that's why it's fantastic that there was records put out on vinyl by certain artists, you know, like maybe Glenn Miller or Leadbelly, that we wouldn't have had. We wouldn't have given them a chance to listen to that stuff, you know. Peter Wolf's got the record collection. You ought to see his record collection. Mine was very small when I had it. I started collecting records more for research for what I was going to do, and then unfortunately the entire record collection got wiped out in an accident in my old house. A water pipe broke and ruined them all. So I don't have any of those left.
Sorry to hear that.
I have it in with chess. If I have to go there,
any album with all the plugs that, yeah, definitely any of those chestnuts, so to speak.
And we actually thought of that as a title. You know, we actually ran that by because, like, you know, old song, a chestnut. We ran it, and then we found and said no, because it's the Chess family name, so you can't bring that into it. An address you can use, but we actually fooled around with that.
Wow. All right. See, I should be working for you guys. We're on the same wavelength.
Tuned in here,
we are definitely,
Tuned in.
Well, George, you know, as a big vinyl fan myself, you know, there are a lot of people that talk about the album as you know, the idea of from start to finish, you know, flipping that record, listening to every song. Whereas nowadays, you know, a lot of singles are the big thing. People can download singles on iTunes. Even the concept of the album is, some people argue, is sort of going the way of the dodo bird, unfortunately. Do you feel as an artist that not just some of your big hits, but thematically, that putting out an album from start to finish, every track is purposefully selected, is that an important thing for you as an artist?
It was always that way with me. It was always important because when I first started collecting albums and records and all that, I came from the 60s, and the people that released albums in those times, the Beatles, the Rolling Stones, Dylan, who were the big people, and Jimi Hendrix and all them, they made a conscious effort to make sure every cut was good. So they kind of spoiled me, you know, from day one. So I said, oh, that's the way it should be done. Why in the world, if you open up a restaurant and you have a menu, the two of the things on the menu are good and the rest of it's just crap? Why put it on the menu?
Well, that's the fast food model, you know, and that's, some people would argue there are fast food artists out there.
I said, then let's just release 2 songs. Let's just have one product in the restaurant. You know, something that's good, and we only serve beer, nothing else. Or we only serve hamburgers, nothing else. We don't put other things on the menu that are crap. We got one item and it's good.
And we do it good.
Exactly. So I said, well, if you're going to have 10 songs or 12 songs, let's really work hard at making sure every one of them stands up.
Gotcha.
You know, and that takes time, and some people go with that theory, and some people don't. The ones who, I mean, I listened to Modern Times by Bob Dylan. I said, man, this son of a gun did it again. This is 100 years after the man started, and every song on that thing is terrific, and it's not that old. So he's still, you know, plugging away, make sure the whole album is good. You know. Well,
one of the things about vinyl too, you mentioned Leadbelly and some of those classic old school blues and jazz artists. There are still albums on vinyl that have never been released on CD. I mean, from what I understand, you know,
right?
some.
Which one?
Well, I've heard, you know, Leadbelly, Bessie Smith, a lot of, you know, some old vinyl albums.
They'll get around to it. They'll get around to it. You know, eventually, if there's enough interest, if there's a market for it, you know, someone will say we have these things, and they'll figure out a way. I mean, I just found out that the Robert Johnson collection just finally went triple platinum or something. And that's what started it for me. Once I heard Robert Johnson, I started listening to Skip James and Mississippi John Hurt and the other thing. So Robert Johnson is kind of like the Beatles of the blues world. So when something like that gets, some other executives will say, well, let's see if this works, if this bites. So it'll get out there eventually.
Wonderful. Well, George, again, this going on a big tour here in the States, and on screen we're going to actually show your website, but I'd imagine folks can go to your website, find out information about some of the venues you're touring, and maybe come check you and your band out here in the States.
Yes,
coming up.
They can do that. Now that it's the 21st century, we have joined the 20th century with technology. Thank you. Jason, Cynthia, thank you very much.
All right, wonderful. Well, thanks so much, George. We'll let you get back to preparing for your concert tonight, and wish you all the best with this show and your upcoming tour.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks, man.
Most of what I told you is true.